Hi. So I'm going to have a look at Beethoven's Sonata Opus 40, number 1 in E, first movement, which is it's one of those pieces that's I think often set for the sort of higher grades, grade 8, I would guess. Associated Board of Royal Schools of Music, grade 8 would be the kind of level this piece would appear. I certainly played it when I was younger. It's tricky, and yeah, I'd like to have a look at it with you to show you the kind of things that I would practice. Now, obviously, my way of working isn't the same as everyone's. So, you take what you can from this. I'm going to sort of demonstrate the kind of things I think about. I'm not going to necessarily talk too much in detail because I teach piano in a particular way that's quite unconventional. I teach fluency and I teach the structure of rhythm and tonality in a very particular way. If that's something you're interested in, have a look at playpianofluently.com. But I'll talk probably more generally around those kind of ideas, and you never know, you might get some gems that might help you play it better. So I'll play the first subject, the first section, and then I'll talk about it. So here we go. Okay, so I'm obsessed with rhythm. I think rhythm is the most important thing in music, often neglected, I think, in classical piano teaching, apart from, say, play in time or play with rubato, play with good phrasing. I'm really interested in groove. I'm really interested in the way that the groove holds things together and makes your body work better. So I feel that having a good groove makes you play well. So this, obviously the groove is very simple. It's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And one of the things that I'm really very keen on is for people to feel the groove like a story, like a poem. So it has the right kind of non-linear meter. So you've got sort of like 1 and 2 and followed by 3 and 4 and 1 and is followed by 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and is followed by 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and it affects the way you play. You feel it. So that first note is joined to the second in the left hand. It's a 1 and followed by 2 and 1 and 2 and. So it affects. You don't have to show it too much. It's not about showing the groove and making it sound like overly sort of rhythmic in that way. It's not to make it, I don't know what the word would be, like obvious, but it's about processing it in the right structure in your mind. So I'm thinking of this, that, this, that, this, that, this, that. Do you see what I mean? So the pitfall is to sort of think it's this followed by na na na. And it all gets very unstable and not very flowing. Now it's allegro. I'm not playing it too fast. The feeling of velocity, the feeling of flow through the groove is what gives it its feeling of being. It's very lyrical kind of allegro, but nevertheless quite lively. And it's that forward momentum. And listen how much more of that you hear when you have that correct groove structure. Almost like it rhymes. It's like a poem. So the next section is tricky. You've got these little flourishes. If you play them too square, if you go da 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 da, it's a bit. It doesn't feel very lyrical. So you do this thing where you kind of swing and snap. You kind of go diddle little diddle little. See what I'm doing? Diddle little diddle little. Diddle little diddle little, diddle little diddle little, diddle little diddle little, diddle little diddle little. This kind of accelerando thing in the middle of a a phrase of notes. It's. I still think in the two groups. I think this, that, diddle little diddle little, But I think of the first diddle-diddle as having this kind of swingy thing, the first diddle of the diddle-diddle, diddle-diddle, diddle-diddle. And then that gives me time at the end before I start the next, so it kind of tapers. So you can hear it. So it has this kind of flowing quality. If I try and play it very straight, it just kind of, I didn't pedal as well, so I'll pedal as well. It's a different effect. So I allow that kind of flexibility to come in. I mean, even there, it was still there, to be honest. I because I practice in this way, I can't get that kind of very square sound that many people get when they're playing the piano. So I don't even try. So even that last example where I added the pedal, probably I'm still doing diddle, 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 giving it that slight feeling of flexibility. It's still very much on the beat, but it doesn't have that sort of rat-a-tat kind of machine gun sort of precision. So the next section is very lyrical. Got to fit those ornaments in, keep them kind of light. You can always stretch the things about the groove is it's actually stretchy. So you've got time 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that was quite a lot. That would give me loads of time. And it still doesn't sound out of time as long as you feel that poetic structure. If you're reciting a poem with a real strong sense of the meter, it doesn't mean you say it like a metronome. If I go, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. So a very strong sense of that kind of sing-songy poetic meter, the groove, musical groove, but it's actually quite stretchy. So you can stretch. Beethoven kind of requires this at times when he adds these sort of ornaments. These ones aren't too bad. Some of them you really need to kind of stretch to fit them in. And then this obviously got the rhythm thing again. I think I've just speeded up. I'll get back to the original tempo. Same thing here, it's a rhythmic thing again. Make sure that you don't kind of join the little semiquavers, 2 little 16ths at the end of that bar. You don't want to join them too much and run into the next bit like this. It kind of rushes in. 1 and 2 diddle da diddle, 3 and 4 diddle dum dum. It can feel like you're going sort of diddle and then stopping. It sort of almost feels like that when you play it in a way, because that's the end. 1 and 2 diddle. Dum 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 diddle dum 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 diddle dum 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 diddle dum 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 diddle dum 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 diddle. See what I mean? It's like you've got more time than you think, and I always make sure that this is happening. So in a piece like this, it feels very important for it to feel rhythmically stable with some romantic flexibility, but some rubato, but not too much. It's still early Beethoven. All right, this next section. Okay, so that the sparseness of that first part, it's a weird thing when you play with really strong storytelling, really that strong sense of the groove, the poetry. Somehow, even the sparsest music sort of has this, I don't know, quality of resonance or something. It's hard to put into words what happens, but it feels sort of, I don't know, like it rings, it flows. So it's still very beautiful. Now, there's lots of these little triplety things in different places. There's one here. So the way to do those is to really get your fingers right on the keys. You should always do that anyway. You want to play, I always play from touching the keys. I always make sure that I play nice and close and efficiently with a nice sort of quite strong but relaxed kind of claw-shaped hand. So right on the keys there, I'm actually using the top three fingers, 3, 4, and 5, and I go, it's just like a little flick, isn't it? So if you can do that, just you can almost practice like that. I'm covering the fingers and I just go diddler, 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 diddler dum, diddler dum. Again, the thing is not to try and run it into the main note and go diddler, you know. It kind of doesn't work. Diddler dum. It's like diddler dum. It's like a little extra moment. And so they come obviously in the little ornaments, the turns, same sort of idea. And I think that passage I love that passage. It's sort of so beautiful and warm after the sparseness and the sort of counterpoint of the previous passage. It's kind of like a lovely warm relief, isn't it, from that? So really allow that. I think these contrasts in Beethoven are very important. So, you know, play that up. It's so warm and beautiful. Can you hear I'm sort of pinging out the top notes a bit there? It's good to do that just gently because it's all piano, but not too soft. It's not pianissimo. It's not PP. It's just 1P. And then you get these lovely loud triplets again. So I'm doing the same thing, diddle-dum, and I'm really feeling that diddle, diddle. You can practice that. You can really practice that, making sure that it's, you could almost go, or play all three notes together. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. You know, get them together. 1 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. See what I mean? So that they really, they feel like a little triplet group that's discrete from the note. Otherwise, they kind of just run in and it's hard to control your fingers, all nice and close, using the whole hand, the whole arm, not overusing the fingers, that kind of thing. And then obviously it builds and builds and becomes truly fortissimo. So kind of go for it, use a bit of... And then this kind of hushed pianissimo. So it's a pianissimo, it's still very rhythmic. I'm playing really close to the keys, touching. I get that kind of claw hand, slightly straighter fingers perhaps than I would normally, just to make sure it's kind of really controlled, to get that kind of, that shape, just a little bit towards that. Okay, let's hear the next section. Assuming you've repeated the first section, if you're going to. I think you generally don't in exams, but it's nice to in a performance, really. Anyway, next section. tricky. That kind of left hand stuff is tricky. One of the things that you yeah, is unavoidable fact is that the piano keys are a bit wider than they were in Beethoven's day, and some of this stuff is a bit stretchy. Um, so you need to get this kind of flexibility into the motion. You're going to feel, a bit of rotation and keep the hand kind of soft, stay nice and close to the keys. It's not easy going. That's a bit easier, that one. Not too bad, but I've only got quite small hands really, because I'm quite a small person. I'm only 5'8", so my hands are in proportion, so they're not that huge. And I manage it, as I say, with this kind of flexibility. If you've got really small hands, you need to get really loads of flexibility and maybe some I think I play with flexibility in the rhythm, maybe even more flexibility, And that's that poetic thing again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And you can kind of almost give yourself a bit more time at the beginning, and you can sketch just a little bit. So play with that. Play with getting nice and close to the keys, feeling that sort of spread chord flexibility. And again, you can practice that. You can practice that feeling of, if you can't quite really get into all those keys, if I say I can't get onto the top one there with my thumb, practicing that kind of rotation to get to it. Making the top sing but not poking it out. Again, the rhythm, this storytelling thing, it helps your legato in octaves. And I'm only legating with pedal. I'm not doing all that 4/5 thing. I kind of don't bother with that because I don't really think it makes any difference. It's more kind of how you feel it. If you feel it like a singing melody, and that's a lot through the rhythm, then you'll get it. You'll get that singing quality. Notice the flexibility, da da ti da, and that gives you time to get down there. So see, I'm obsessed with this thing of the groove being strong and stable, inward. That's what I normally say. I normally say inward rhythm, flowing rhythm. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Very flexible, very in the body. Always kind of feel it in the body. Tell a story kind of from your heart, from your soul. Don't measure with your head. Don't kind of, and obviously if you stick a metronome and try and play with that in a piece like this, you'll have problems doing that unless the metronome tempo is under tempo, because you can't get all the way down from there to there in the space of very fast 16th notes. Just can't. So, you need that feeling of flexibility through the groove. Okay. Oh yeah, the contrasty dynamics, it's really nice to get them. Not in an artificial weird way though. I mean, it's not nice to kind of go, let me see, like, not for me. It just seems odd. You hear this sort of thing a lot, don't you? And it just seems a bit weird, a bit point making. I don't like it. I like the pianissimo. And then building up. And keep the tempo going. It's so tempting after, passages of faster notes, when you get sort of, like shorter note values, you get into the slower note values, you kind of lose tempo. Try not to do that. It's really, I think that really, really helps. Then you get these nice scales in the next passage. So I will pick up from there. Where did I go to? Yeah, where the scales start. So with scales, I don't really practice scales. I don't advocate practicing scales. Obviously, if you're doing an exam, you have to play scales. So if I were to preparing you, coaching you for an exam playing scales, I would say do the same thing I'm going to say now with your scales work. It's got rhythm. I know I sound like a broken record, but hey ho, I'm obsessed with rhythm. So it's that little diddle little, you got that feeling of diddle little. So when you got these little rests at the beginning, it's that same thing as, but quicker. Diddle little, followed by diddle little, and then same with the loud ones at the beginning of it. I do actually take that top note, the E, with my thumb so that I can get down a bit quicker, but you don't have to do. You've actually got time if you're a bit flexible. You could probably hear that flexibility. It's the way we think of it. Diddle little, diddle little, diddle little, diddle little. Diddle little, diddle little, diddle little, diddle little. That really makes your scales flow. So even if you were playing an E major scale in your exam, you want that feeling of flow and rhythm. So yeah, that's the new bit in that passage. Obviously, the rest of it's pretty much as before, but in the new key, back in the tonic key. And then we get the lovely pianissimo section again, and it sort of plays out to the end. All about that groove, all about feeling that structure. And some big stretches again in those. So, and again, if you've got small hands, there are things you can do. You could play where you just go down to the bottom note for the middle one if it's a big stretch. If you literally can't stretch it, it's tricky. I don't know what to suggest in a way. You can't really spread them. You can't go. So yeah, quite stretchy. They're quite big shapes. I mean, what would it sound like if I just played the top two notes? Not the end of the world, doesn't sound too bad. Missing that bass note a bit, but if that's what you can manage, play what you can manage. The key thing, with these kind of pianissimo chords, as I was saying before, is to get a nice stable feeling to the hand, so the fingers are right on and the movement's really minimized but very clean and rhythmic. Very, very rhythmic. So this kind of ending to a movement like this, very exposed, quite tricky, because you want it to really land and feel finished, but it's so kind of understated. So quite an understated, only slightly romantic movement, but one that's really beautiful, and hopefully some of the things that I've shared with you might be useful if you're studying this piece.